Welcome back to the Desk Talk Podcast with your hosts, Trent Werner and Alex Magala, bringing you weekly episodes talking business, personal development, and all things real estate. Let's do it! Bring them back. We are back with the life cycle of a real estate transaction. Today, Alex and I figured let's just run through what a real estate transaction looks like on the buyer side and the seller side. I know we've kind of talked about the home buying process and some of the other things, but today we figured we would cover the entire life cycle of a real estate transaction.
On both sides, buyer and seller.
Yep. So I think we just dive right into it.
Yeah.
First,
which one do we want to start with, buyer or seller first?
I figured we start with the different timeline or for phases.
Okay.
And then cover them from both buyer and seller at the same time per each phase.
Okay.
So the first phase is navigating the real estate market. You've heard us talk about getting pre-approved, going out and looking at homes with your realtor, me, and then writing offers. We've probably talked about competitive markets and, understanding that there's going to be multiple offers on most of the homes that you go look at. If you're looking at a decent house, you're going to have to come in with good terms and a favorable, strong offer price, usually. And in a balanced market, you'll be looking less competitive. You can submit offers under asking, see what the seller's willing to do. And then in a buyer's favored market where inventory is really high, that's when you can really come in underneath asking and you have the power or the leverage in that situation.
You get to really play versus in a hot market, you don't really have time to play around. You get to just go.
Mm-hmm.
Versus when it's more on the buyer side, you get to sit there and kind of twiddle your thumbs, make offers under, see what they say, come back. Then it's just like a longer cycle to it versus competitively. It's just get your ducks in a row and go.
Yeah, and I think there's different situations where even in a competitive market, if someone has a bunch of cash on hand and they just kind of want to upgrade and they don't have to sell their house before they buy their new one, they're in a way better position than someone that has to sell their house to buy a house right now because they're not relying on funds from a previous sale and hitting all those timelines and making sure all those boxes are checked.
It's a whole nother avenue.
So those types of buyers definitely have some leverage right now because maybe some people are saying, oh, everyone's overpaying for their house right now. Well, if that person that has a bunch of cash on hand feels that people are overpaying, maybe they will submit offers and see, throwing darts at a dartboard, see what sticks kind of thing. But I would say 80 to 90% of buyers right now are let's show and go, baby. Like we gotta start writing offers on stuff that just came on the market today if we want a chance.
Yeah, I mean, we ourselves are in a deal with a buddy, and it was super competitive to the point where we had to get him a pre-approval letter out like pretty much instantly and make an offer to get it accepted. And it's just like you kind of got to do what you got to do versus most people would have dragged their feet and been like, it's not the right one. Or, when you're describing that exact situation, that person has more power than they really think. So they could stop the search at any time. They don't need to buy. It's just when you can qualify without having to sell your house for another house and you're fine financially, you have more power in pretty much any situation because it's on your terms, not on someone else's terms. I think that's when people start to really panic in real estate transactions is when it's not on their terms and it's on someone else's terms and they've got to sell their house and then qualify for this one and go on and so on first. My parents, for example, selling their house, they got like a contingent offer and that offer ended up just going through instantly because someone else bought the person's house and needed to move in like right away. So these people had to be out and my parents had to be out and find out. So it's just like sometimes it can go from being like I have all the power in the world to, oh my gosh, it's nightmare now. So it's just kind of how do you get through all that?
Yeah, one thing that actually just happened a few weeks ago was a situation where a property was pending and my brilliant client that she is said, hey, I'm going to keep an eye on it. It's fallen out of contract a few times now. I really like this place. If it falls out again, let's jump on it. And lo and behold, it fell out of contract again. So we swooped in there like 4 hours after it came back on the market, and now we're in contract with it, and she's pumped about it. So being able to act fast is a great like we let it sit for another day or two. Like it's been pending 4 times.
It's definitely going to go pending again.
People obviously want to buy it, and I don't know why it came out of contract 4 times, but people want to buy it, and if you act quickly, you could win the deal and get it in contract yourself. So
a lot of people are trying to sell a house and writing contingent offers, and that is usually why you're seeing so many houses fall out of contract and back into it, is because of these people not being able to meet their contingencies. And when you don't have to write a contingency in your offer, I think that stands out as well, because it's on your terms. It's not on anyone else's. But yeah, that one's a fun one.
Now looking at it from the seller side, in a market where there's not that much inventory, obviously the sellers have a lot of power because they're the ones that have the house. So on the seller side right now, it's a great time to sell because inventory is so low and the buyer pool is so strong that you're going to get multiple offers on your place. You might see bidding wars. You might see offers way over asking. I have seen, I've written full price offers and been beat by 30 grand on, like a house that was listed at 420 or something like that. So that's a pretty good ways over asking, and sellers are loving it right now because home values keep going up and inventory keeps going down. So supply and demand says that they're
months now here in the Portland area.
So
it's
lowest
new record every month that it keeps going on and on.
Lowest it's ever recorded.
Kind of a weird side note. Have you ever dealt with an escalation clause?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my aunt and uncle sold their property down in San Diego, and one of the offers had like an escalation clause where basically it said like if anyone came in above him, they had like 3 days for him to make another offer like higher than it. And lo and behold, like multiply. And he just kept coming back and was like, I'm getting it. And they ended up getting way over asking price. And it's just like people go crazy for something that they really want.
So that kind of segues into our next phase where we're structuring the offer, a strong offer, to stand out if it is a multiple offer situation. And an escalation clause is definitely a tool that can be used in a competitive market, especially because it gives you another chance to submit a better offer. However, I highly recommend putting a cap to the escalation clause in your initial offer if you are going to include one. Let's say the property is listed at 400, you're willing to go to 440, right in the offer that you're willing to do an escalation clause up to 440 because you don't want to get, super out of hand. And there's no reason for it to get out of hand, So definitely put a cap on your escalation clause. That is one way to structure a strong offer. Do you have another way of structuring strong offers right now?
I mean, as a lender, I don't make the offers, but I can certainly make up a pre-approval letter, make it kind of have certain wording in there, and then on top of it kind of do my due diligence and let the real estate agent that we're working with that's representing the buyer just be like, yo, let the agent know that they can call me or ask me any questions, kind of like vetting this buyer, and then that gives me a chance to kind of talk to the listing agent and be like, no, this is super solid, the loan's going to close, we're ready, give us a chance or something like that. And so it's just kind of creative ways to get around that. I mean, I've seen people make custom paintings of families' homes that have been in the family for 30 years and they're finally selling it, and they really wanted it. They made a custom painting and submitted it with their offer, or they got like wood etched or wood burned and they sent them something like that. So it's just like there's kind of different ways to go about it. It just depends on kind of what home you're looking at and how bad you really want it. For example, I would totally go after a solid gift if it's a family that's been in someone's home, or a home that's been in someone's family for a long time, because it's sentimental. So how can you kind of give them that one last piece before they say goodbye?
A few things that I've done personally with clients, if it's a single family home and maybe it's been in the family for a long time, or maybe it's like an older person selling their home that they've been in a long time, and like the kids are helping them sell it type thing. Mm-hmm. Writing letters to the sellers, get schmoozy, get sappy with it. That's worked. I've seen it. Having favorable terms and conditions is definitely another one. Sometimes, you want a seller credit, but it's going to be competitive, so you leave that out at the beginning, and maybe you can get a seller credit during the inspection period type thing. But not asking for too much right off the jump, being accommodate what the seller needs. Maybe they are needing to buy a new house. So, hey, we can do a rent back if they need it. Talking with the listing agent saying, hey, what does the seller need in an offer? What does the seller want? Like, what's their situation? That's a great way to structure your offer so it's, favorable to the seller and you stand out more that way. And then I always like to say, just come with your best first. Like in this market, it doesn't make sense to look for a counter necessarily on most of the deals. It doesn't make sense to say, hey, if I get it for this price, great, but I would pay this, but let's offer the lower one to see if we get it. Like, it's not the right time for that.
People are just going to immediately go like that when they have other offers that are above you. Like, they don't give you a chance to come back in this type of market.
No. But, with that said, if you're looking at investing in a property and you gotta base your decision off of numbers, run your numbers and submit the offer according to your numbers. Don't, inflate your purchase price just because you get emotional about it. Write the offer according to your numbers that you've run, and if you get it, great. If you don't,
go on to the next one.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be. It's business.
Yeah.
So that's one thing when you are structuring your offers. Depending on the situation, it can be a little bit different unless between investment and primary residence.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Or even like second homes. Like, since you're not actually living in it, sometimes people don't get so attached to it. But it's a business decision at that point. Like you said, don't let your emotions get the best of you and ruin an investment that you're trying to make money on.
Mm-hmm. And then from the seller side, when you're reviewing those offers, obviously you're going to want to look at offers that are favorable to you, whether it be purchase price. If you're in need of a quick close, then the quickest close date might be the best one. If you need more time because you do have to buy a new house and it's a contingent situation, maybe the offer that has the longest rent back is the one that you like the most. And if the price could be, similar to the other ones, then maybe you work with that client, that kind of thing. So, the sellers have a lot of power right now, and they can kind of pick and choose what they're looking for, which is nice to be on the sell side. But
yeah, that's why you see a lot of people pushing sales, a lot of people asking for people if they're ready to sell their house, because it's inventory is the number one issue, and then on top of it, there's so many buyers out there that are actively looking because of interest rates and how low they are. So when you get into this crazy competitive environment in real estate, you really have to be ready. Have your ducks in a row. That's what I tell everyone. There's no kind of fiddling around.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed actually is if you have owned a bunch of rentals for 20 plus years and you're at that stage where you're like, I don't really want to manage them anymore and I don't want to pay for a property manager, I'm kind of ready to do some more passive. I mean, it is pretty passive once you get it going, but like full hands off, and you're looking at 1031ing into like a syndication or a DST, something like that. Right now is a great time to liquidate and perform that 1031 because of how high home values are. And, I've talked with a guy that is thinking about doing that. And, I was like, here's my comps and this is what it says. And he's like, well, that's way higher than I thought it would be. And I'm like, well, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So
there's a guy I just talked to him today. He's doing the same thing. He was like, had a bunch of questions if he can use, his 1031 funds as his down payment. And it's just like, yep. He's just upgrading. He's just going from small one unit into a triplex. And so it's just, it's that time. It makes sense. The numbers are pretty high. Obviously it could still keep going up, but you really never know. So it's like, do you want to risk it or do you want to secure it?
Yeah, and defer the capital gains tax through 1031. So you're gonna, hopefully your capital gains are gonna be pretty high right now because of where home values are at, and you can defer the capital gains on it by 1031ing. So take advantage of it.
Yep. Not a lot of people know too that once you go from that one unit into that 2 unit, it's a different. The jumbo capabilities, your conventional loan limits increase, so it's not that 548 number. Like, he was so hung up on it, and he was wanting to put down more money, and I was like, oh, whoa, like, we don't need to do this. We only need to get to 20%. You can keep more of your money in your pocket, which as an investor, that's what most people want to do, is keep more cash in their pocket than put it into a home. And he was like, wow, yeah. And so it's that time. If you have 1 unit, so you can get into that 2 unit with that down payment and stay out of jumbo pricing.
Mm-hmm. Now phase 3 comes negotiations. This is when we're in the inspection period, we have done the inspection report, and now the buyer has some things that they want to talk with the seller about in terms of repairs or things that popped up on the inspection report. As a buyer right now, there's obviously some things that are going to be negotiable regardless. Health, safety issues, foundation issues, big ticket items, that kind of thing. The nickel and diming is just not in the cards right now. And even asking for some bigger ticket items, but not like huge items, has become a little apprehensive for a lot of people, especially if there was multiple offers and you beat other people out. If there's a backup offer on the property that's already been accepted, good luck asking for
anything.
Hardly anything. I've had situations where we asked for some things. It wasn't a lot, a couple grand, maybe $4,000, and the seller said, no, we have a backup offer, we want to work with you guys, but if you can't let that go, then we'll just move on to the next one. Okay, we're good. Let's just keep on moving forward.
Act like nothing happened.
Yeah, and then from the seller side, obviously you can,
you're in the driver's seat. You
can say no to more things that a couple years ago you would probably have to concede some sort of seller credit or price reduction of some sort. So, if you have a plan to go and buy a property and you don't want to do a whole lot of work, but you're writing offers on properties that require work, and you get it in contract, you get your inspection back, and you are shocked by it, you're not going to be able to ask for a $10,000 price reduction.
No.
And you're not going to be able to ask for repairs for, a leaky faucet or, a chipped floorboard. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
If your roof's leaking and it's an active leak, okay, we can talk about it. If there's, a mold issue, something like that, we can talk about that stuff. But I had one on a property that I sold. The offer was structured in a way that the buyers basically were like, if any repairs are less than $1,500 to fix, we're not even going to worry about it. And so that basically said any kind of bigger ticket items we'll have a discussion about. Not saying that we're going to get anything for it, or, we don't know what the outcome is going to be yet, but any of the smaller stuff, we already know that the buyers aren't going to worry about it. And that was really encouraging for
your sellers,
the sellers, and that offer, because it's like, okay, we're not going to get nickel and dimed here when we could have taken a different offer and avoided this whole situation in the first place. So that was really cool. That was one interesting way. That was a good way to structure an offer by that buyer's agent. I was really impressed by it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, like, having a solid agent, someone who's got your best interest and understands. I mean, it's pretty easy to make a phone call and ask a few questions and figure out what's kind of needed from one end, and you'd be surprised how many people don't do it. And it's just same thing in the mortgage world. You'd be surprised how many people don't make that simple phone call, and so it's crazy.
Yeah. So just to recap a little bit, we kind of breezed through the life cycle of a real estate transaction, but it all starts with navigating the market that you're in, that you're dealing with, structuring your offer in a way that is, goes with the market depending on which market you're in, and negotiating according to the market that you're in as well. So there's different situations.
The whole thing is just know your competition.
Yeah, but there's different situations, and there's different people that are in different situations, and the way they navigate a market is going to be different than the way someone else navigates it. So it's important to understand your situation and work with someone that understands the different situations out there so they can represent you accordingly. But
that's literally all we got for you today.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share it, play it, rewatch it, slap it, bop it, flick it, twist it, adios it.
Peace. That's the end of today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. It truly means a lot to us. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share this with friends. This helps fuel the podcast and gets more and more guests on our show. Hey, go follow us on Instagram as well. Desk Talk Podcast. Go connect with Trent and I as well. We're on Instagram too, LinkedIn, you name it. Stay tuned for more episodes. Peace.